Okay, I'm back. Part two. I paused. I stopped the Facebook Live and I pausing this. So in the podcast, as you're re-listening to the recording, you won't have any transition. But I waited until that torrential downpour stopped. We've been so needing this rain though. And I guess this goes, I said I wasn't going to talk in circles, but I'm going to, because that's just how I talk. And this thing is in my way because I like to use my hands, and I'm going to flip it if I keep doing that. So the rain, the elements, the moon, the sun, the wind, fire, air, rain, water, earth. All of these are becoming a part of my culture. They're becoming a part of my daily experience. And I think for a lot of us Americans, when immigrants first came to America, there was a lot of American pride, the land of the free. There was a lot of various cultures that came into this place, calling it the melting pot, right, of all these different cultures and religions and experiences and past that all came here to have a new, fresh experience. And sometimes upon arriving, people would actually give up their culture and become American. And they would lose or take off their culture. They would strip off, they would speak only English. They would not speak in their native tongue because it brought different connotations. There was so many cultures that were looked down upon and not charged correctly, or in like a more of a indentured servitude, or in like a slave category. So what does this have to do with insights of the new moon? So, good morning, Diana. Okay, so I tried to explain this to Travis and he didn't quite get it. And so I think I'm just sharing it so that I'm sharing it, and eventually it'll evolve so that I have better words to explain it. In the Magical Mothering Method, which is an incredibly powerful program that I created. Good morning, Leandra. Thanks for coming back. In the Magical Mothering Method, it is a very powerful program. And it was a bit difficult. Leandra successfully completed it. I had a couple others successfully complete the program, but honestly, not many. I have had a lot of people start it. I've had a lot of people get a little bit of ways into it and then fall aside because it is an automated self-paced program. It takes a lot to stay in a self-sustained rhythm, okay? So that being kind of what is the forethought of what I keep thinking about, I would like to offer something that we do together, because I know that people tend to stick with something if they have somebody there guiding them and leading them. Okay, so step one. I'm very excited about this because while I was traveling and on the road, I just couldn't present the material in that way. I didn't have consistent internet. I wasn't in locations that even I could have Zoom calls. There was just no way for me to present this information like this at the beginning of when I did this 2.5 years ago. So now looking at it now, I also realized something huge, like mind-blowingly huge. Two things, actually. One of my family members has been suggested that they are on the autism spectrum. I was looking at their behavior and I went, oh, that's interesting. I guess that could be construed as being on the spectrum. Go back to last week before my rest week. Both of the sessions that I had, the women mentioned that they were most likely on the spectrum, and we're going to start doing evaluations to get diagnosed or evaluated for being on the autism spectrum, okay? I started looking up autism spectrum disorder. So mind you, I have a psychology degree. The DSM-4 at the time when I was going through school 20 years ago was the diagnostic manual of the time. I don't know if autism, it might have been in the DSM-4, but it wasn't really something that was widely known. It was very, very specific. It was very severe cases, right? Asperger's was in there, and then like really severe autism was in there, but it's really like only nonverbal cases, only certain aspects, okay? So I started looking at my own self, and I started taking just some like see if you're on the spectrum quizzes, you know, just to like, let me just see. And the questions that they were asking really started like light bulbing, such as the fact that I had to stop my Facebook Live because it was such a sensory overwhelm inside of this apothecary with the metal roof. I'm like, I want to go rock myself because it's too intense. I don't get that way often because I've learned to mask those things. And this, I think, is a crucial point that a lot of us don't even realize, that we are neurodivergent in some way, shape, or form. Now, TikTok has been a great platform for actually advocating and letting people know that they're probably neurodivergent, because TikTok, as a neurodivergent, as somebody who has ADHD, OCD, ADD, autism, is on the spectrum, ritualistic behavior, unable to shower regularly, unable to have a sensation of water, being, hypersensitive, tags tickling them, being very uncomfortable to certain clothings or synthetics or foods, the textures of foods, all of these things are parts of being neurodivergent. Whether you're on the spectrum or not, and that's the autism spectrum, which I didn't actually even have in my brain as a possibility. And so just so everybody knows who is watching, thank you for being here live. We are in a safe, sacred space again in the Magical Mothering Facebook group. So feel free to comment, because nobody's going to see this except for the beautiful women who are in the Magical Mothering Facebook group. So I've decided to come back into this platform. Yay, hi Lonice, so that it is a safe, sacred space again. I have been a talking head for the past 7 months in my public forum, kind of reawakening, doing Facebook Lives again and getting back into this space. And now I am going back into the heart of Magical Mothering, which is the Facebook group. And I'm very excited to have daily themes again, all sorts of awesome stuff happening in this space, as well as in the Patreon group and on Discord still. So that is what is happening. Okay, so with neurodivergency, that was one big aha of like, oh my gosh, my brain thinks differently. So yesterday, I did like just a video diary for myself, because there was so much happening. I was like, I'm just going to do a video. I just need to talk it out so I can have it on a transcript so I can read through it and highlight some points. Did I do that? No, because I'm neurodivergent, but I have it. And so I can refer back to it. And one thing that is great about labels is, here's a label. We go, ah ha ha, ding, ding, ding. My brain thinks differently than everybody else. Okay, now I can take that and put myself outside of the box, because that's how my brain thinks, and I will no longer be inside of the box of normal. Yay! We don't have to be normal. We don't have to think like everybody else. We are then given permission to allow, release, breathe into the fact that our brains are wired completely differently. And we get to actually honor that. We get to be in a space of going, okay, I understand that my brain works differently. Okay, I understand that I don't think like everybody else. Okay, I get it. So my video diary yesterday was all about being very naive. I've been told this my whole life. I've been told that I live in an imaginary realm, that I'm very naive, and I don't know what's going on in the real world. Okay, first. That is actually like a sign of autism. And I went, oh my goddess. Wow, my brain, it just doesn't work like other people's. Whether I'm on the spectrum or not, that label doesn't matter to me. I got a green light that I might not be what everybody else has thought of me my whole life, but I am actually on the reverse of that. I have a special way of thinking, and most likely so do you. So that was a huge aha, because as I was going, I actually went through pictures from pre-traveling, and I've gotten a lot of insights about people and my trust, and both Travis and I are very trusting people, and so we give ourselves fully into other people, and we've actually had to learn how to not do that because we've gotten hurt and we've gotten used and we've had circumstances where that did not serve us. But these are people who prey on the spiritual naive or the spiritual spectrum people, or people that are so energetically open, the healers, the spiritually vulnerable. Okay, I don't like using that word because it makes me sound like a victim. And I'm not a victim because I chose these experiences so that I could experience them. So there's an aspect of being very clear that what is unraveling, whether it's naivete, and I love that because innocence is how we connect. Intimacy creates a type of vulnerable, a type of ripping away, of just exposing yourself. That's what intimacy is. And when you are working with people that are on the spectrum, intimacy is very different. And so it actually, that in particular, helped me look at maybe ways that I was actually not being intimate with my own children. And anytime I'm looking at any of these aspects, I'm always looking at things. I think I can do certain things. I've learned how to be very cognizant and how to read people's social cues because I had to be hyper vigilant as a child because of the interactions and situations that happened around me. So I do not necessarily have the aspects of being on the spectrum where I don't have any connection. I actually hyper connect, and I'm so attunely aware of everybody's energy and feelings around me that I am always dancing like this in other people's energy. And I realize I even do this when I'm scrolling through Facebook. I do this when I'm on my emails. I'm doing this on Facebook Lives. As I see people's names, I'm energetically connecting with their energy. So this has become very interesting. Now, to get to my point that I was trying to get to, that's just some context. The next huge revelation that I had was I was reading this book. I happen to have it right here. It's called Norse Magic. It's a book. It had runes in it. And I kept the book for the runes because I have a beautiful set of copper runes here. I'm going to show you because they're just so beautiful and I love them and they're so amazing. Okay, so I have copper runes. So I saved the book. I have another book that says what they are, but I like to look at different sources for when I'm doing things like that. So I was reading through this book. I know I said I wasn't going to do media, but I was feeling very pulled and called to read this book. So I started reading this book, and it goes through all the pagan seasonal festivals, some of which are just pagan or neo-pagan. Okay, so there's a whole new pagan movement that is not really based in a lot of culture, but it's based on a lot of different cultures, and they just kind of compiled it all to make a new paganism. Wiccan is a relatively new religion based on older cultures and what they think happened and pulling some of that. Okay, Wiccan never called to me. I didn't want to join another religion. After being in Christianity, being a Wiccan did not call to me. So I've never resonated with the Wiccan religion, nor as a witch. These are not things that I've ever resonated with. So I get asked that a lot. So I just wanted to clarify that. Paganism, on the other hand, is the practice and honoring of the earth, its cycles, and the elements. Now that calls to me. Okay, so I went, okay, yes. But when I say paganism, people often think of Wiccan or, you know, Druids or Norse people, or even Hinduism as a pagan culture. So there's so many pagan cultures. Anything that's not Christian is a pagan culture or a pagan religion. So this is really important to understand when we're talking about these things, to have clear language. And good morning, Lisa and Dana and Chris. Good morning, good morning. So I'm looking through the Norse magic, okay? It's talking about all the gods and all the goddesses. It's talking a little tiny bit about the way they lived, but really not much at all. Like there's nothing giving you this aspect of an in-depth way of how they lived, how they connected with nature, how they lived their daily life connected to the elements full time. I'm getting goosebumps because I'm getting to the point and my body's like getting really excited. So there was no context. And then they throw you into Norse spell work. I think that's what it's called. Let me see. What is it called? What is it called? Seasonal rituals. And then there's a whole thing on spell work, okay? In this book, Norse spell work. And it hit me. Maybe because I'm neurodivergent, maybe because I connect patterns from everything that I've ever read, maybe because that's just how my brain works. But I went, without actually living in the culture of a Norse culture, how are we ever, even on a fraction of a level, going to understand what these people and their gods and goddesses and how they interacted with them on a daily, ritualistic, spiritual level when that was their every waking moment? For us to say, I'm just going to glean the seasonal festivals and the spell work, thank you very much, goodbye. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Without the culture, it's devoid of all the real magic. It was talking about in one of the seasonal festivals, it was a harvest festival spell that they were doing. And they said, thank you so much that I get to harvest all the thoughts that I planted. And I went, that is such dissociative work. The magical world is promoting dissociation from physical self. If it's all up here, then we dissociate from our bodies. And then guess what? We are not physically here. We have more pain, fibromyalgia. We have more arthritis pain. We have more diabetes, heart disease. We have inflammation. We have more weight issues. We have all of these things when we are only up here in our spell work and our thoughts and not physically producing a connection with the land, with actually growing something, with actually being connected to the way that the rain is falling, to the wind, to the air, to the leaves, and living in tune with nature like they did 1,000 years ago in Norse culture. When we separate ourselves and say, I can live in this house that's at 70 degrees all day, and I can be connected to Norse magic by reading a book, it's just not true. It's just not true. And for those people that write books like this, saying that it's true, that is where the problem lies. I'm going to raise my hand because I made a program. I made a program that wasn't fully true. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, I love calling myself out in these instances because it means that transformation is happening. It means that awareness is happening, and it means that life is happening because things change and evolve, and that's alchemy. Okay, I'm getting really excited, and I hope you're staying with me because this feels so. Okay, thank you, Lonice, for joining in my excitement. Okay, so with the magical mothering method that I made. Thank you, Diana. With that program, I used chakras. I am not a Hindu. Obviously, right? It is not cultural appropriation. It just doesn't make sense outside of the culture. I do not live, breathe Hindu. I do not practice the deity work that they do. I do not eat the foods that they do. I do not live and breathe a Hindu lifestyle. Yet in the magical mothering method, I use chakras. Who else uses chakras? I use them all in my massage therapy. Reiki, is she a Hindu? No, she uses chakras, but it doesn't make sense outside of the culture. Okay, I'm like feeling like I'm in a sprint right now. I'm like so excited. So I hope this is making sense. Outside of the culture, these things don't have any context. When we look at chakras, when we look at Norse magic, when we look at Druidism, when we look at Celtic culture, when we look at magic, when we look at wizardry, I have lineage in closer ties to like the Druid, English, Norse, Welsh, Germanic properties. So Norse would be my origins. Germanic is Norse as well, but hundreds of years. I have not experienced a single aspect of this original culture. Do you know what I had to do? I had to leave mainstream culture. I had to travel the country for 4 years, find a place in the middle of the woods to sit in nature so that I could reconnect to the elements, because that was what I had to do, because I had no culture. Do you have a culture? Most of us do not. Most of us are floating around with no rituals, no aspects of spiritual life in a daily, moment by moment basis. Lonice says, nope. Thank you for being honest. I have been searching. I think we all have. And the Christian church is really good about making people believe that they have a culture, but it's actually indoctrination. So for me, I was indoctrinated in the Christian church, but I still had no culture. I had no context. The Bible is not even relevant to us in this first world country. We can't even begin to fathom what the actual context is saying outside of 2,000 years ago, Abrahamic, a Jewish man in Abrahamic culture. This is what I'm saying. So thank you for following me. Thank you for understanding. And if there's any questions, like write these questions down so that I can further connect and answer them, because I know it's like I'm kind of all over the place because I'm excited. So I realized this is where I'm sprinting. I'm going to the finish line. Okay, so I realized that magical mothering is our culture. And what I mean by that, it's so exciting. The book, that beautiful coffee table book that I keep talking about, the manual that I keep talking about, and the planner that I keep talking about, this is our culture. This is how we remember our innate nature, not some like made up spell work, not like a culture that we couldn't ever fathom, but our nature, like our real nature. Thank you, Leandra. I don't know why I'm so excited about this, but I really am. Okay, so think of this. Rather than pretending to be in this realm of another person's culture, taking their chakras and their paganism and their spell work and their magic and their things. No. We look at exactly where we are, and we listen to the rain that is happening right now, and we feel the wind that's happening right now, and we connect to the earth that is on our properties and on our land, and we listen to that earth, and we listen to those plants and those trees and that wind and that special place, and we create a culture of new ways of being and living and thriving and creating together that truly sends a ripple across the entire world, transforming the way that we think about everything and the way that we do everything. And so it finally all makes sense. It all makes sense. And it's so exciting because, do you know, most of my life has never made sense. Nothing in my life. And I know for so many of you, you're like, I don't know why I do this job that I do every day, but it gives me money and I just keep doing it. Or I don't know what I'm meant to be doing. I'm not sure. This world just kind of keeps going and I keep flowing in it. And for me, I know that so many of you have the same experience and it doesn't really make sense what we're doing. What are we doing here? It's because we lack the culture to give us a solid foundation. And I realize that that is what magical mothering is. The great mother, the magna mater, the cosmic mother, Mother Earth, goddess culture. All of this is a culture that is our nature, that we all long for the mother. We all long for the mother. If we have the mother, and it might not even be a physical mother, if we have a mother who gives us intimacy, who gives us unconditional love, who gives us the ability to remember our magic, life changes. Life changes. Because without that, when we have a father figure who is strict and dominating and wants our obedience, we shrivel, we contract, we die to ourselves. This is going to spark something so new and fresh and alive. And I'm just so excited that you are here with me to do it together. So that is some of my new moon revelations. So I am like crossing off everything that I've been ever doing and stripping it all down. And this actually includes human design. I am no longer doing human design because human design is based in astrology. You might have heard my rant on astrology before, but I'll say it again very shortly. Astrology is 2,000 years out of date. And then they simplified it and shortened it to make it go with the Gregorian calendar, but it does not. So astrology based on this, the human design is based on astrology, which is outdated by at least 2,000 years, closer to 3,000 years. Astronomy is what is actually happening in the sky at this moment. Astronomy. When we look at truth, when we look at culture, our culture is what is happening, breathing, living around us at this moment in time, in nature in time, in the celestials at this time. I was sharing with Travis, it's like me saying happy full moon on the new moon just because astrology says that that's what it is, but it's not true. So for me, being in truth is so important. And I know it's important to you as well. Thank you, Diana. She says, I'm sparkling. Lonice, yes, huge, huge, huge. So I am now on a journey of stripping back all of these kinds of fallacies or things that were based on truth that have become simplified or dumbed down or put into a process that is actually kind of, it keeps us away from nature and being present in the moment because we're always referring back to that thing rather than opening up a page, just giving you reminders of how to access our magical selves on a daily basis. And that is what magical mothering is. It's reminding us and giving us back access to our magical selves so that we can remain in the truest form and have our own culture that is based in nature, that is based in truth, that is based on true things that are happening, connecting to the elementals of Mother Earth, connecting to the goddess, connecting to our higher self, connecting to our ancestors, connecting to all of these things that are true for us, not based on other cultures that are out of context. So I hope this kind of made sense. I think it did a little. And if anything, thank you for being in my excitement and my joy with me. Thank you for allowing us to have this intimacy, this chance of sharing and collaboration. And if you have questions, if you have thoughts that come from this, if you have ahas or you're like, oh my gosh, that just opened up a whole pattern for me here, I would love to hear them. Write them right here in this video, below this video, or if you're listening to the replay on Spotify, please go into the private Discord community on Patreon, through Patreon, and write your insights there. Let's get these groups going so that we can have these magical conversations and be in this space of creating a true culture on a daily, moment by moment basis together. Thank you for being here. Have an absolutely magical day, and I will see you all tomorrow.